Please, on the Middle East, do you have any comment on two Al Jazeera journalists, Ismail and Rami, who were killed in an Israeli airstrike today in northern Gaza? This raises to the number of journalists and media personnel killed in Gaza to 165. What is your reaction?
So we've seen those reports and are tracking the details. We also have asked our counterparts in the region for additional information should they have it. Look, as the secretary himself has said, we offer our deep condolences to the many Palestinian journalists in Gaza killed or injured during this war and for all that they are suffered. As I said, we are continuing to engage with the government of Israel and the IDF on the importance of protecting journalists and all civilians during the conflict. We believe that journalists have been integral to shedding a light on the dire circumstances in the Gaza Strip right now. And we have been absolutely clear that Israel has a moral obligation and a strategic imperative to protect civilians. And of course, part of that includes journalists. But I don't have any more as it relates to this specific.
Just a quick follow-up. You said you asked Israel for more information. There have been many incidents over the past 9 months that you asked Israel to provide more information. Can you give us one example of?
I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into specific diplomatic conversations. There have been a number of instances in which we have asked our partners in Israel for additional information in which they have provided it. They have shed light on the nature of those operations and how they were conducted. We will continue to engage with those conversations privately with our partners in Israel and publicly when needed. Prem, go ahead.
I will have a non-Middle East question later. If
I'm sure you will. Prem, go ahead.
Thank you for that.
Said, I understand that you are very passionate about this issue. It is not helpful for you to interrupt your colleagues.
I'm sorry, but I'm just making a point that this particular journalist was actually arrested and tortured by the Israelis.
I appreciate your flag, but you interrupting your colleagues is not productive to the daily press briefing process. Prem,
Thank you, Dan. So perhaps this is a good follow-up here. It's been 184 days now since Israeli forces killed Hind Rajib. Her family and medics sent to save her. Last month, when myself and other colleagues asked about the investigation into this, the department said Israel said that they're still investigating, and that Israel also said that the UN and Red Crescent did not respond to outreach from the Israeli government. I reached out to the Red Crescent, and they said that no, the Israeli government did not reach out. So has the Biden-Harris administration followed up on this alleged lie about the Israeli government, or sought to confirm any of Israel's claims on the half-year-old killing now of this girl and her family?
So we are in touch with our partners in Israel around the clock on a variety of issues. I don't have any specifics to read out as it relates to this conversation. I'm happy to check if there have been any additional updates, but to my understanding, this investigation is still ongoing, and I will leave it to them to speak to the details of it.
So I had reached out to the Israeli government as well, and while I was reaching out to the Red Crescent, they said they would get back to me with an answer, and they did not. After we reported, the Red Crescent said that
well, it's really, I'm not a spokesperson for the responsiveness of another foreign ministry.
Given that, this government gives them billions of dollars in aid, I'd imagine that such claims would want to be fact-checked.
So we will continue to engage with our partners in Israel. We ask them for additional information. We ask questions when we see incidents unfold, and we'll continue to do that. As it relates to this incident, I'm not aware of any updates, and I believe this investigation is ongoing.
Okay, and one quick one. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. With the 2024 election around the corner, how has the U.S. followed up on the reporting, I believe a month and a half ago, ish, forgive me if I'm wrong, of Israeli government-sponsored influence campaigns attempting to influence American politics?
So I'm not aware of this report specifically.
The New York Times reporting. The New York Times reporting.
Right. Sorry. No, I understand what you're speaking to. So look. Any foreign entity is aware of U.S. laws and the confines in which they should or should not be allowed to operate within the United States. When it comes to disinformation and things targeted at the United States, I will say that is not necessarily something that lives in this department, and I'm sure my colleagues at the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security would be happy to talk to you about efforts that are underway as it relates to election integrity and things like that, including the Office of the ODNI.
Are there any other nations who receive billions of dollars from the United States that are alleged to conduct such foreign influence campaigns?
So I'm just not going to speculate on what was a non-government assessment report cited in that reporting, but I am sure that these other entities who deal on this very important issue would be happy to speak to you in greater detail. Go ahead.
So I know you said that you wouldn't comment on the impact of Hania, but the U.S. government had a $5 million reward on the head of Fuad Shakir. I was just wondering if you had any comment on his killing and
So first, we spoke a little bit about this earlier in the week. We've seen some conflicting reports on whether Food Shukr survived the strike, but the latest information out of Beirut suggests that he did succumb to his injuries after being taken to a hospital for treatment. Let's also remember that this was an individual who was involved in the 1983 U.S. Marine barracks bombing and certainly has American blood on his hands. And as it relates to our Rewards for Justice program, I just don't have any additional information. Confidentiality is a key aspect of the way in which the department's Reward for Justice program operates, and as a rule, we don't publicly disclose specific information submitted into responses as it relates to things like this. But I think an important thing to note, again, is that the U.S. was not involved in the planning of the attack, and this was an action taken by the IDF based on Israeli intelligence. DR, go ahead.
Thank you. You just said that the U.S. is not involved in this act, but the Iranian government sent a letter to United Nations Security Council, and they clearly says that the U.S. has the responsibility for that act, which they say that this act could not have occurred without the authorization and intelligence support of the United States. What's your comment on this?
So again, I just don't have any assessment to offer for you as it relates to attribution, and our message to any country, to any entity, whether it be the Iranian regime or otherwise, is the call for de-escalation and to not take any actions that would lead the region into wider conflict. That has been our message since October 7th, and that continues to be the case.
And then yesterday, the U.S.-led global coalition attacked PMF, the Iranian-backed groups in Iraq. So, and then the Iraqi government condemned this, and they said that despite all the efforts through political and diplomatic channels, and that the U.S.-led global coalition, they attacked the PMF, and they want to drag Iraq into the wider conflict in the region. So why did you conduct this attack, and what's your comments on the Iraqi government?
Let's be a little bit clear about what this is that U.S. forces carried out a defensive airstrike in Iraq on July 30th. These actions were taken to address an imminent threat posed to U.S. and coalition forces, and we have a commitment to the safety and security of our personnel, and we won't hesitate to defend our people or hold responsible those who may potentially harm U.S. personnel, and it's as simple as that. Go ahead in the back.
Well, thank you. Always in the same Middle East issues. I want to bring you back to Al Jazeera, please. Al Jazeera, the network now assures you, confirms that it was a targeted killing. The crew of reporters were reporting by the house of Hania, and they've been struck by that missile. What would you have to say? We know you're talking to the Israelis, but what are you specifically asking them? You have 22 Arab countries who need an answer.
So I don't have any updates as it relates to this particular circumstance. As I said to your colleague, we are aware of these reports, and we have communicated with our partners in Israel for more additional information, but I don't have anything to share beyond that at the moment.